Here among the rocks and trees, the water, wind, and sky, we find our solace. Here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, we are home. And here from the far-flung corners of the world, treading the well-worn pathways of our alumni, come our campers. They come to us from ages past and present. Across the miles and across the years, they come to this place, which echoes with the laughter of a million summer memories. This is their story, the history of Camp Highlander. Ours is the tale of two mountains, each as old as time, that together have played host to our beloved Camp Highlander. At the turn of the last century, as parents sought to deliver their children from the inner cities of the Industrial Revolution to the greener glens of America's wilderness, the summer camp was born. In 1957, a husband and wife from Baton Rouge, Ben and Polly Wax, purchased the property formerly known as Camp Paradise in Highlands, North Carolina, with dreams of expanding on a day camp and an after-school program they started in Louisiana. They called their new adventure Camp Highlander. And at the time, the camp had a decidedly Scots Highland theme, kilts and all. Now, as an all-boys camp, Highlander welcomed young men for daily activities of hiking, camping, horseback riding, and canoeing. In later summers, there was a 3-week session that welcomed girls to the mountain as well, pioneering the Highlander co-ed camp experience. In 1964, after the death of Mr. Wax, Mrs. Wax sold Camp Highlander to Pinecrest Preparatory School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Dr. May McMillan, the founder of Pinecrest, wanted to create an extension to the educational process by taking advantage of the many teachable moments that arise during the camp day. Pinecrest reopened Camp Highlander in 1965 as a co-ed camp offering separate and combined programs that created a family atmosphere. There were 85 campers in 1965, and due to the location of the camp on the side of the mountains, they established what we know today as the cabin unit. It was at that time that a young Tim Harris came to Highlander as camp director to begin what would become his life's work. In the fall of 2016, as I was expecting my third child, I had the opportunity to return to the birthplace of Camp Highlander and watch the old campus come alive through the eyes of our beloved Mr. H. Mr. H, thank you so much for coming here today with me to the original Camp Highlander here in Highlands, North Carolina.
Okay, pleasure, pleasure, pleasure.
And there's not a better place to start our tour than the lake.
Right, this is the lake where all the swimming and boating went on. It's a great place to be.
Well, I bet there were a lot of wonderful memories of camp that were started here at the lake, but let's go see the rest of the camp.
Okay, let's go. Let's get going. Yep, let's do it. This is the exact spot of our campfire area. It's always been right here, and it's always been large, and it was a very, very great spot for our music to be played out here. This is the spot where we always announce color war coming up, and so this is where any hoopla and yelling went on right here.
It's one of the best traditions we have at Highlander, hands down.
Hands down. Camp, other than dollies, probably the campfires are the most popular thing in camp.
Okay, so where are we now, Mr. H?
Right now we're at the cabin 15, which was the oldest boys. Okay. And they bordered on being teenagers, and it was the oldest boys' cabin was right here, and this is my first year at camp. This was my home. I had this cabin.
Can you tell me about the cabin unit and how that came about? Because the cabin unit is something that I think is very unique and special about Camp Highlander, where the counselors and the kids travel around to activities together. Was it always that way?
Always, always. We never let our campers just go. They always went as a group, as a cabin. You're doing things together, laughing, having fun, joining, being part. And of course, there were some youngsters like today, that, you know, that had problems, homesick and that type thing. And they're always the ones that I would deal with, and most of the time up by the tower.
Oh.
And
Well, you know what? You've mentioned that tower. I would love to see the tower and the view from the tower where you
Oh, boy,
meet
okay.
with those youngsters.
Oh, I would definitely want you to see it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, right, okay, definitely see it. There's the tower. And this used to be a forest ranger's tower.
Well, I hear there's a beautiful view up there. Will you show it to me?
Yes, I will show it to you,
All right.
yes.
Now this is a view.
Now see, right down there is Blue Valley. Yes, this is called Meditation Rock. This is where we had our church, our Sunday services here, and the whole camp was here.
So this is where really the faith aspect of Camp Highlander was established, at Meditation Rock.
At Meditation Rock.
Wow.
That's why it was called Meditation Rock, because it was a place where a lot of people, such as my wife or I, and just you could sit and you could meditate.
Well, I can see why this would be a beautiful place to meditate. Look at this view.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
It's just
I mean,
gorgeous.
you could go far and wide, and you would never see what you can see from Meditation Rock.
Mr. H, I just love the fact that the core values of getting kids out in the wilderness and letting them experience nature and connecting with nature and their faith and who they were established many, many years ago, and that's still what we're doing today. So I just want to thank you for coming out here with me today.
Right, well, that's a big part of it.
This was wonderful to see where Camp Highlander started and, and where our roots are, and hopefully we are making the name proud today as we still carry on tradition that was established by you and so many others.
Yeah, and of course this was an opportunity for, I don't know of any other camp that had what we have here.
Yeah.
No, there isn't any.
No,
okay?
No, there isn't.
This is it,
This
Camp
is
Highlander.
Well, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Mwah.
As we leave Highlands, you'll recall that I told you ours is a tale of two mountains. In 1974, we meet the second summit in the story of Camp Highlander, Old Forge Mountain in Mills River, North Carolina. It was here in 1927 where the Silver family built their summer home, the building we know today as the Lodge. Dr. Silver had been operating a tent camp for boys on Lake Osceola in Hendersonville since 1924. In the late 1930s, Dr. Silver built 2 additional cabins on Old Forge Mountain, what is now Cabin 1 and the Cottage. He moved the tent camp from Hendersonville to Mills River. Dr. Silver's son, Herbert Silver, and his wife, Belle, inherited the camp and established Camp Osceola for boys and girls, and built most of what we know as Camp Highlander today. In 1948, they built a girls' camp section, cabins 14, 15, 16, and 17. And in 1951, a boys' section, cabins 18, 19, 20, Fox and the Hound, and Bunker. Over the years, they added more cabins, the tennis courts, the gym, and the dining hall. In 1970, the Silver sold Camp Osceola, and it became Camp Blue Ridge. And in 1974, a young LSU student named Gaynell Tinsley was taking the helm as program director when Camp Blue Ridge was purchased by the Pinecrest School and became the new site of Camp Highlander.
Moving from the Highlands to here was, it was seamless, pretty seamless, except for the fact that we had history here, and there was history at Highlands. That's why when I went to talk to Mr. Harrison in October about it, he said, you know what, we're going to make our own history. I'll never forget one time he said, right before one of the sale went through from the old camp, he said, Gaynell, there's a lot of stuff at the old camp I would like to bring over. So sure enough, we jumped into a pickup truck, went over there at about 12:30 at night. We're going around camp over in Highlands with flashlights, picking up things that Mr. Harris thought would be something that we needed to carry on our traditions here at the new location. We worked like bandits for hours, trying to get everything in there. And one thing was was the bell. We brought the bell over at that same time. It certainly made that transition much, much easier.
In its new location, Camp Highlander saw great expansion. Pinecrest quickly set to adding to the campus to accommodate the growing number of campers. In the 1980s, Tinny Top, the Arts and Crafts Barn, the Pottery Barn, and the stables were all built. The dawning of a new decade saw a flurry of activity at camp and an infusion of campers whose children would return a generation later.
The facilities have changed tremendously over the 45 years. You know, our lake has stayed the same, our athletic field has stayed the same. Our barn has been, improved. We have a 26-stall barn. At one time, we only had a 12-stall barn. The archery range has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places over the years. And our lake had, docks and cribs and swimming docks and diving docks and everything besides the blob and stuff. So that's changed a lot.
Activities included riflery, archery, mountain biking, and woodworking, and remained very much the same throughout the years. It was in 1999 that Camp Highlander played host to the Disney Channel's reality kids camp TV show, Bug Juice.
These are the true-life adventures of kids at summer camp.
So I got a call from Disney, and I said, yeah, right. Who is it really? They said, no, it's Rupert Thomas from Disney. And he said, Mr. Tinsley, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the possibility of a reality show being filmed at Camp Highlander. I said, what is a reality show? I mean, there were no reality shows. He said, well, it's kind of like a documentary. Sure enough, they were like flies on the walls for 24/7 at camp. It was a fantastic thing for us. I mean, it was really good.
After a changing of the guard, a move from mountaintop to mountaintop, and a turn on the Disney Channel, the story of Camp Highlander would add a new chapter as the 1900s came to a close. It was at that time that another couple from Louisiana would walk onto the pages of the Highlander story. My parents, Shelley and Carl Alexander.
All right, I'm looking straight at the camera, so where am I supposed to look? Straight at the camera? Is that good? Let's see what I'm gonna do here now. Very few people get to live their dream, get to do exactly what they want to do in life. And I have more fun talking to other parents about the fact that that's exactly what Shelley and I are doing. We're living our dream. The first time I set foot on this campus was absolutely beyond any magical story I could ever tell or write. I remember distinctly calling my wife that evening after walking this entire campus and saying, I have no idea what shot we have at this, but I said, should we be so fortunate, should we be so blessed as to end up with this as our home, it's an absolute dream facility in the most gorgeous patch of the Appalachian Mountains I've ever seen.
At first I heard from the business manager at Pinecrest School, and he had called up and said, we have someone else that just thrown their hat in the ring for the purchase of Highlander. I said, okay, whatever. He said, somebody from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or Carl Alexander, Carl with a K, T, Alexander. And he said that he knows you. I said, well, I do know Carl Alexander. He was a fraternity brother of mine at LSU, but I haven't talked to him in 30 years. It was a good feeling. The feeling about seeing an old friend. It was very calming and comforting to know that the new owner wanted to continue the same thing that we had been working with for all these years.
Over the course of the next 16 years, the Alexanders committed themselves to completely refurbishing the decades-old facilities at Camp Highlander. Historic buildings were renovated, new buildings and activity spaces were constructed. As the campus experienced a renaissance of its facilities, the heart of Highlander continued to beat true and strong. New traditions were born, like Reflect at the Rock, the peanut drop on the 4th of July, cookies and milk after campfire, 5-year pins, and a rededication to Highlander's core values: courage, honesty, integrity, and faith, known today as CHIF. New landmarks arose: the hotel, the Alamo, the bell tower, and the crow's nest. I humbly became camp director in 2016, continuing the spirit and traditions of the Highlander family that Tim Harris and Gaynell Tinsley, now Director Emeritus, created in the hearts and lives of our campers and staff for so many years. The journey of Camp Highlander is a long and winding one, passing through the years, across the mountains, and into the hearts of countless boys and girls. The Highlander story really is their story, one of wonder, laughter, achievement, and friendship.
You know, I think the next 60 years of Camp Highlander are going to be extremely bright. My dream was always to buy a summer camp, to make a difference in children's lives, and to leave that legacy to my children, and for they to leave it to their children. But in my heart of hearts, I think that's real, and I think the stage is set for all of that. They've got the most incredible passion for this mountain. You can see the passion in their eyes. You know they've got it, and it has brought us to where we are today, and we're very blessed.
As we continue into the future, we carry our past with us. We wrap ourselves in the traditions of those who came before us and are warmed by the knowledge that the Highlander story will live on. It will live in the hearts of our campers who have tread these hallowed mountain trails, and it will live on in the hearts of those campers yet to come. Camp Highlander, a place like no other.